My name is Craig Pascal, and I am the husband of the late, great, incredible Victor Shargai. Thank you for joining us. I know you love Victor, and I have news for you. He loves you more. Victor was so smart, genuinely caring, and of course so special. He was successful, yet humble. We had a great partnership and then a great marriage, albeit too short. I miss him greatly, but he is at peace during this difficult time. We enjoyed so many great trips together, and as you know, many, many nights at the theater, as well as going to galas supporting wonderful causes, as well as dinners with friends and family. But he really enjoyed being at home at the Watergate South, at the wonderful unit that he decorated, and I helped a little in that. Family was very important to him. Friends were equally important. Many of them were longtime customers. He treasured his longtime and loyal teammates at Victor Shargai and Associates. Theater, as you know, was his oxygen, both the performances and the people. Thank you all for allowing him to breathe so well for so many decades. Thank you to Lou, James, Eric, and Amy, and many others that helped put together this memorial program. Thank you to all the participants. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for all who are watching and for all your support for Victor over the years and for your support for me. Victor has left the show, but I'm sure you would know that he would say the show must go on. So looking forward to seeing you in the future in person. Love, Craig.
Victor Shargai. Victor Shargai had a love affair with Theater Washington, and Theater in Washington had a love affair with Victor Shargai. He was a champion and a supporter. He cared and believed in how theater could transform lives and community. As a board chair, a board member, and a philanthropist, he was a connector. He took joy in connecting people with institutions, both large and small, to help them grow and do. Picking out the color of the napkins. That was one of the first things I heard about Victor Shargai, that he liked to pick out the color of the napkins. And that was true. He cared about the smallest of details, because he knew that they all came together for a big impact. He wanted people to have the time of their lives at the annual Helen Hayes Awards to celebrate artistic excellence. He would wear his signature open shirts, his fancy tailored boots, and he'd have this infectious smile, and he would greet 2,000 people as his closest friends. When I saw Victor at the theater, his eyes would light up and they would meet mine. He had such a sense of anticipation how we, meaning me and Craig and everybody else who was in the lobby, how much we had to look forward to. We were going to watch together. We were going to enter the theater to see a play. The quiet immensity of sitting in that room together was something he took great delight in. I was really lucky to work side by side with Victor. He blessed me with his friendship, his warmth, his wry sense of humor, and his willingness to listen, really listen. What I carry most about Victor is his kindness. When you would say, "How are you, Victor?" he would always reply, "I'm trying. I'm trying." And he was. He worked tirelessly to create and build a better theater community. When he died, I said we were going to honor him in ways that were big and small. We have a big announcement tonight, one I'm deeply honored to make. in partnership with Craig Pascal, Victor's husband, and Theodore Washington, we will have a new award, the Victor Shargai Leadership Award. We will give it out for the first time in 2021, when we're able to gather again. Victor, I know that you would want us to continue to be kind to each other and to continue to celebrate and to continue to keep trying. And we will.
You are the sunshine of my life. That's why I'll always be around. You are the apple of my eye. Forever you'll stay in my heart. You are the sunshine of my life. That's why I'll always be around. You are the apple of my eye, yeah. Forever you'll stay in my heart. I feel like this is the beginning, though I've loved you a million years. And if I thought our love was ending, I'd find myself drowning in my own tears. You are the sunshine of my life. That's why I'll always be around. You are the apple of my eye, yeah. Forever you'll stay in my heart. You must have known that I was lonely, because you came to my rescue. And I know that this must be heaven. How could so much love be inside of you? You are the sunshine of my life. That's why I'll always be around. I will. You are the apple of my eye. You are. Forever you'll stay in my heart. Forever in my heart. Forever in my heart. We love you, Victor.
A few nights ago, walking across a bridge spanning the Delaware River, I saw, quite by happenstance, a splendid fireworks display, or rather, the top of one. The rest was hidden by an inconvenient hill. Throughout my childhood, Victor's visits felt a bit like that. His presence was thrillingly glamorous, Yet for each scintillating comet or chrysanthemum we could see, there were dozens we knew only by hearsay, mainly from Grandma Mimi's effervescent quelling or the framed clippings on her walls. Uncle Victor dined with presidents, danced with princesses, had once studied acting at a famous school in England where he made such an impression that they named it after him, though why Old Vic rather than Young Vic was a bit of a puzzle. Born in Manhattan in 1936, he came, as his beloved Victorian novelists might say, of humble stock. His father, Harry, was a street sweeper. His mother, Millie, Mimi to us, sewed drapes to order. But it was stock that appreciated steadily, thanks to talent and what was not so much a work ethic as a work compulsion, an inability to sit still. Harry, in time, would work his way up to chief of staff and acting commissioner of the sanitation department. Sister Arlene would become, with her two daughters, the mother of the What to Expect book series. But in the early days, the mobility was mostly horizontal. By the time he left the city, Victor had lived in every borough except Staten Island, which we all know is really part of New Jersey. At bedtime, Millie read Shakespeare to the kids. At age 8, Victor appeared in a storefront theater on Liberty Avenue, singing and tap dancing to Chattanooga Choo Choo. In grade school at PS 55, Mozart's magic flute played over the PA system whetted his appetite for higher brow pleasures. He trod the boards of the Playhouse Theater on 48th Street, then moved on to the prestigious High School for the Performing Arts, where he studied acting with Sidney Lumet, shared a reciprocal crush with Suzanne Plachette, and got a glimpse of gay life from Dame DeLuise, whose father, like Victor's, worked for the sanitation department. Tiring of the commute from Queens, he transferred to Jamaica High School, where he won the Best Actor award in the Drama Festival for his role in No Exit, despite, or perhaps because of, the fact that he blanked and ended up improvising most of the lines. As the teacher handed him the award, she smiled, "Congratulations, Mr. Sark." After Queens College, he moved on to the eponymous Bristol Old Vic, where he rubbed shoulders with the wild Peter O'Toole and the slightly less wild Gene Wilder, then Jerome Silberman, who suggested he check out a playwright and director in East Berlin who was doing some interesting things, which is how Victor ended up spending a week as the guest of Bertolt Brecht. Add his years of acting in plays and TV in New York, and this sounds like the youth of an actor, perhaps even a future star. How then did he end up, instead, as one of Washington's preeminent interior designers, as well as the prime mover of its theater world? Rewind the film, and we find a clue in the opening scene. Victor's first memory was of the maroon tiles in the bathroom of his family's Brooklyn apartment, above his great-uncle's dentistry office. Was toddler Victor excited by the vibrant color? Or was he appalled by this lapse in taste? Though it may seem circuitous, in fact, Victor's life path makes perfect sense. For all his native star power, he found his real fulfillment in setting the stage on which others might shine. He was the life of the party, but he was also the one who tweaked the flowers beforehand and helped with the dishes after. At all the key moments of our lives, from brisses to shivas, Victor was there. And not only there, but busy behind the scenes and in front of them, sprinkling stardust, making everything and everyone glow. One of nature's aristocrats. His stock was perhaps not so humble after all. He was descended from the priests of the ancient temple in Jerusalem, according to family lore, those entrusted with lighting the great golden menorah. In Aramaic, his original surname means lamp or light. No wonder he had such a gift for pageantry, for panoply, for sheer beauty. No wonder he burned so bright.
Hi, beautiful people. I'm Heidi Murkoff, Victor's niece, and all of you beautiful people already know this. When Victor called and left a message, that's how it always started. Always. Hi, beautiful people. But the truth is, there was no more beautiful person than Victor. He was beautiful on the outside, of course, that perfectly and probably smooth skin, that adorable, flirty, dimpled smile, those beautiful, beautiful hands. Everything in Victor's life was beautiful too, and so carefully, meticulously curated down to the last detail, the last pop of unexpected color or pattern. He was a perfectionist, and he passed that mixed blessing and burden down to me, along with his type A+++ personality and his uncanny ability to remember long out of service phone numbers. Good was never good enough for Victor. Even very good missed the mark. He was always striving for perfection. The perfect vase, the perfect fabric, the perfect flower arrangement, the perfect table at the perfect restaurant, and ultimately the perfect partner, the one he found in his crazy, cute husband, Craig, who, let's just say it and get it over with, completed him like no one else could have. It's funny though, after finding his perfect partner and settling down, Victor, the guy who never ever settled, started to settle. Good wasn't his ideal, don't get me wrong, but all of a sudden it was good enough for him. It wasn't the enemy of perfect anymore the way it had been his whole life, or at least as long as I'd been in his life. Instead, it was perfectly acceptable. With Craig by his side, he mellowed. Not with age, because aging wasn't something he did, but with happiness, contentment. The Victor after Craig was every bit as beautiful, maybe a little bit extra beautiful. So was their apartment together. With Craig around, every picture frame was still perfectly placed, every flower perfectly arranged. Drinks always had coasters, paper napkins never took the place of cloth, but he started mixing Prada jeans with Target sweaters, Target sweaters. He bought bulk at Costco proudly. He stopped switching tables as soon as he was seated and hotel rooms as soon as he checked in. He still sent the bread back when it was cold, and maybe he made an involuntary face when his vodka wasn't on the house list. But the details didn't make or break his day or night. The big picture mattered more once Craig was in the picture. He was sillier, more giggly, much naughtier. Inappropriate was suddenly so perfectly appropriate. No, the Victor after Craig was more open, go with the flow, less etiquette, more just get over it. He did it his way still, but it wasn't his way or the highway. After all of those years of insisting on being in the driver's seat, he was just happy to be along for the ride. Not to say that his search for perfection ever really ended. A few years back, on one of his and Craig's annual Christmas visits, we were wandering around an antique store together, as he loved to do. And suddenly, he stumbled on exactly what he was looking for, what we had been looking for, actually, for years. The perfect dining room table. It was fin jewel, and it was perfect, and we bought it. And boy, did Victor love telling that story, because he found it. He found perfection. And Victor, we found perfection in you. I still have so many messages from Victor on my cell phone, and I'm lazy about erasing messages. And now, of course, I'm glad that I never got around to it. I haven't had the strength to listen to them yet, but that's okay, because I don't even have to play them back. To hear them over and over and over again on an endless loop in my heart forever. Hi, beautiful people. Hi, Victor. Love you so much.
Hello, this is Richard Clifford.
And Derek Jacobi. We're here sitting in France, saying hello to you all in America, particularly in Washington, D.C., to all Victor's friends and colleagues, and particularly hello to Craig. We've loved Victor for a long time. We've known him for over 20 years, and he has been a great professional support, certainly to me as a director and as an actor in America. And we have spent many times with him, both in America, but also in London, which is where we live. And particularly remember many dinners that we had with him in London when he came over. And also a wonderful Christmas that we spent. There were 20 of us, including Phillida Law, who'd been to drama school with Victor, and her daughter Emma Thompson, and all the family. And we had the most wonderful time. Yes. So Victor is remembered by us all in England.
And I remember another dinner party, this time in Washington, where Victor did something which I've never forgotten, and I've tried to use it myself on occasion. We all sat down to dinner, and there were about 10 or 12 of us on a round table. Victor clinked his knife against a glass to get our attention, and then said, very simply, there will be one conversation. which meant that you didn't talk to the person on either side of you. You talked to the table, and the table enjoyed the conversation, and it worked superbly for the entire evening. It was wonderful.
So we'd like to say hello,
Yes.
and we raise a glass to Victor.
To Victor.
We love you, Victor.
Hi, I'm Erin Driscoll, and this is one of Victor's favorite passages from Pride and Prejudice. Elizabeth's mind was too full for conversation, but she saw and admired every remarkable spot and point of view. They gradually ascended for half a mile and then found themselves at the top of a considerable eminence, where the wood ceased and the eye was instantly caught by Pemberley House, situated on the opposite side of a valley, into which the road with some abruptness wound. It was a large, handsome stone building standing well on rising ground, and backed by a ridge of high woody hills, and in front a stream of some natural importance was swelled into greater, but without any artificial appearance. Its banks were neither formal nor falsely adorned. Elizabeth was delighted. She had never seen a place for which nature had done more, or where natural beauty had been so counteracted by an awkward taste. They were all of them warm in their admiration, and at that moment she felt that to be mistress of Pemberley might be something.
It's night on the
Hello, I'm Zach Powell, and I'll be reading about how Victor came to Washington, D.C. My late partner, for whom the John on Yellow Award for Emerging Theaters is named, was offered a job in Washington, D.C. And miracle of miracles followed. I, who vowed never to leave the theater, was assisting on the Christopher Plummer, The Resistible Rise of Archuo Ui, and fell down some steps backstage and severely sprained my ankle. To say the truth, I had just delivered some costumes to the star's dressing room, where I found him looking angelic, taking a nap, trying to nurse a cold. I suppose I wasn't thinking about the descent, just not looking. And when I was working with Ray Diffin, who was building the frocks for Funny Girl, and every day when Barbara came in for fittings, we shared these huge sandwiches from Carnegie Delicatessen. Who knew from cholesterol then? Barbara gained weight, and the papers whispered she was pregnant, and she was dating Elliot Gould at the time. But back to the job in D.C. We thought we'd try it for a year. One evening, when I was coming back from therapy for my ankle, I looked up at our apartment on the top floor of 160 East 27th Street and noticed there was soot above the bedroom windows, which offered only a sliver of the promised view of the East River. Then I noticed there were no windows. When I got through the police barriers, I found our next-door neighbor had fallen asleep, drunk, while smoking, and our apartment had been destroyed. They had to go through our apartment to get to him. Well, I always was a fatalist. I couldn't work, I had no home, and within a few weeks, I moved to Washington, D.C. There, through our next-door neighbor's nephew, Cal Culver, one of the owners of Lost and Found, I had an appointment for a job in interior design. I had also studied that a little at the Interior Design Institute. The man who should have interviewed me was in Europe, so I talked instead to the president of Sloan Mayer, who hired me 2 hours later. I later found out the vice president wouldn't have hired me. He didn't approve of my credentials. But Leonard Jacobs, father of Ben Jacobs of JBG, saw something in me even I didn't know existed. I found a job which I could finally do, where I could use the experience of acting and picking out smartas all those years to make money, which now, happily, allows me to support my first lover, theater. And specifically, theater in the great theater town of the Washington, D.C. area.
Victor took me under his wing in the early 80s, and he never let go. His affection and his belief in me never lapsed, even when I left D.C. He enriched my life in countless ways, personally and professionally, and it's hard to picture the future without him. Victor was all about love. He cared deeply for his family, his friends, Washington area theaters, and his husband, Craig. To me, his love felt unconditional, and I hope that as you listen to this, you'll remember how Victor made you feel. His last phone message, which I cannot bring myself to erase, began like this: I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. I miss you, I miss you, I miss you, I miss you. We miss you, Victor. Long ago, a week he spent with us in France with John, and a trip he made to L.A. to hear me sing a program of French songs at the Hollywood Bowl helped make this song one of his favorites. He asked me to sing it at his wedding to Craig. Here is Chanson from The Baker's Wife by Stephen Schwartz.
Chaque jour est un jour comme les autres beaux jours. Le potage, l'ouvrage, peut-être l'amour. Le soleil, il voyage, le monde fait un tour. Ainsi c'est toujours le même. Every day as you do what you do every day, and you see the same faces who fill the cafe. And if some of those faces have new things to say, nothing is really different. And the wind changes course, and the moon changes phase, and the earth spins around with the greens and the grays. And you never take time out to think of the ways everything might be different. And then one day suddenly something can happen. It may be quite simple, it may be quite small, but all of a sudden your stew tastes different, and you hear the gull cry in a different key. You see with new eyes, and the faces you see are people you don't know at all. And the someone who touches your hair every day touches you now in a different way. And you may want to run, or you may want to stay forever. And since life is the cry of the gull, and the taste of your stew, and the way that you feel when he touches you, now your whole life is different. Now your whole life is new. Chaque jour est un jour comme les autres beaux jours. Le potage, l'ouvrage, peut-être l'amour. Le soleil, il voyage, le monde fait un tour. Ainsi c'est toujours le même.
I'm Christine Scott, or as some of you may remember me, Chris at Victor Shargai. I worked at Victor Shargai and Associates from December 1979 until September 2015, when Victor closed the business. Perhaps the best way to remember and celebrate Victor's legacy as an interior designer is simply to look at his work. Whether residential design, commercial, or corporate, Victor's goal was to meet his clients' needs, wants, and dreams with beauty, comfort, and taste. Victor wasn't so much about baubles, bangles, and bright shiny beads, but if that was what you really wanted, Victor would make sure that your baubles were beautiful, your bangles were comfortable, and your bright shiny beads were in the very best of taste and the most expensive. Victor came to town in the early 1960s. He came with a wealth of theatrical experience, acting, set decoration, costuming, summer stock, the old Vic, as well as a liberal arts college degree in English literature, an education in the precepts of interior design from the New York School of Interior Design, and the vision of a successful career in design for himself. During an extended engagement of close to 10 years at W&J Sloan here in DC, He gained his accreditation from the American Society of Interior Designers. He established for himself a solid client base, some of whom stayed with him for his entire career and became dear friends. In 1973, Victor opened his own design firm, Victor Shargai and Associates, Inc. He closed the business in 2015.
I'm Raman Suraj. I worked for Victor for 30 years. I started as a draftsman and I was his vice president for the last 10 years. Victor put all of his life experience and innate talent into his design work. His color sense, his grasp of proportion, his understanding of how things were constructed, whether it was the framework of your house or the upholstery of your sofa, all came out of his training and practical exercise of his arts and crafts. For Victor, your living room, your office, your in-home theater, your private jet, your yacht, your cabin in the mountains, where you cook, sleep, entertain, and brush your teeth, these spaces were Victor's stage.
Every client, every employee who passed through the portals at Victor Shargai and Associates, every trade who worked on Victor's jobs, and every provider of design goods and services had a role in realizing Victor's vision. The show went on because everybody played their part.
Victor didn't have what is called a signature look. What he did have was the ability to interpret his client's idea and create environments unique to each. Victor left us a lot to remember and celebrate.
Hello, my name is Elvie Moore, former General Director of the Washington Ballet. Shortly after Victor and John Agnello moved from New York to Washington, they became fast friends with Mary Day, founder of the Washington Ballet. But it was when Victor became a very active member of the board of directors that he and I developed a deep and lasting friendship. He was particularly interested in the training that Mary Day was giving at the Washington School of Ballet, and delighted in watching dancers grow not just as technicians, but as artists. Encouraging and nurturing young dancers, actors, and even arts administrators later became a very important part of Victor's life. At the school, he spotted Amanda Macaro, then a young student, whom he thought had the makings of a real artist. Amanda became a member of the professional company, the Washington Ballet, and it was there that when Mary Day took her to Moscow, Russia for an international ballet competition, where she emerged as the first American to win a gold medal in Russia. She then became principal dancer with American Ballet Theater, where Victor continued to follow her career and to support her by attending performances in New York, Washington, and around the country. In fact, the walls of his office were full of Amanda's pictures in her various ballerina roles. The video you are about to see is of Amanda Macaro and John Gardner dancing the pas de deux from the ballet Leaves Are Fading, choreographed by Anthony Tudor, music by Antonin Dvorak.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything is going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick, she's winking her eye. I said, oh, what a beautiful morning. I said, oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything is going my way. It's going my way. I am so humbled to be here honoring Victor Shargai. What an amazing, charming, charismatic, supportive, loving friend of mine and of the theater. I'm definitely going to miss seeing Victor on opening nights. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy, it don't miss a tree. But I know we've been with her, she's laughing my way. I said, oh, what a beautiful morning. I said, oh, what a beautiful day. Oh, I got a beautiful feeling. Everything is going my way. I said, oh, what a beautiful day. Beautiful day, beautiful day, beautiful day. It's heading my way. This beautiful day. It's only just out of reach, down a block on a beach, but heading my way. Beautiful day. It's a beautiful
We love you, Victor.
Hi, I'm Jason Loweth, Artistic Director of the Only Theater Center, and I am honored and humbled to say a few words about Victor Shargai, our beloved First Gentleman of Washington Theater and my friend. Any salute to the region's First Gentleman has to start with the First Lady of the American Theater, Helen Hayes. Helen grew up in Washington and did much more for our region than give her name to the awards that Victor brought to national prominence. After playing multiple engagements at the National in the first half of the 20th century, when it was the only professional theater in town, she used her celebrity to demand the theater desegregate its audiences in 1948. When the National wouldn't budge, she took her next project to the integrated only theater instead. Its success there proved that audiences in the nation's capital wanted social justice. The National closed rather than desegregate, but that decision led directly to the birth of Arena Stage, and the era of DC theater's growth and greatness began. Arguably, it was Victor's tireless efforts that finished what Helen started. By the time of her last trip to Washington in 1992, Victor had created the award's signature fundraiser, Helen's Annual Birthday Party, a glitzy affair where all of Washington society turned out in support of the region's theaters. Helen turned 92 that year and landed in the hospital at the last minute. So what did Victor do? He took that year's headliner, Karen Akers, to the hospital to sing her favorite song at her bedside. Everyone who knew Victor has a version of that story. It wasn't the glamorous parties he could so effortlessly throw or his willingness to open his A-list Rolodex that are his legacy. It was for those special private moments of intense love and generosity that he will be missed and mourned and forever loved. When I became artistic director of Only in 2013, it was Victor's embrace that lifted me up. A minute on the phone with Victor was worth an hour with anyone else. And in the mad swirl of an opening night, his quiet, "Hello, darling," made you feel like the most important person in the room. And you were at that moment. You were the most important, the most fascinating, the most loved for the work you were doing to make Washington, D.C. one of the greatest theater towns in the world. He was never prouder than when he was carrying you atop his stylish shoulders. So though Victor truly was the first gentleman of American theater, of Washington theater, with all the style and celebrity that implies, it was as a parent to our entire theater scene that he'll be remembered, at least by me. He considered all of us in the theater his children, and I am proud and oh so lucky to have been one of them. Like any great parent, he never hesitated to let you know when you didn't live up to his expectations, and like any good child, you were devastated when that happened. But you also knew that his love for you never waned, his belief in you was forever, and his chief desire was to see you and your theater succeed. Godspeed, Victor. This community could never have become what it is without you, and I'll think of you at every one of the galas and awards and opening nights to come. Goodbye, darling.
Hi, I'm Linda Levy. First, I hope this finds everyone safe and healthy. Could we even imagine how Victor would respond to a world like we're currently experiencing? Victor served as chairman of the board of directors of the Helen Hayes Awards in Theater Washington during the majority of my tenure as president and CEO. Well, never had I ever met such a force of nature, someone so iconic and a maestro who seemed to simultaneously conduct multiple activities in perpetual motion. When the word gods came up with the expression larger than life, no doubt Victor auditioned to be their muse. He rightfully took his place among other mononymous icons, Cher, Prince, Beyonce, because for a legion of people, he needed no further identification other than Victor. That one name alone communicated everything: his qualities and quirks, his principles, and in fact, what he will always continue to be. For instance, Victor was absolutely a study in contrasts. Perhaps from time to time, he may have been perceived to be a bit flamboyant, maybe a bigwig, perhaps even a real mover and shaker. But the truth is, he was genuinely a down-to-earth guy who loved his family dearly and just wanted to be a member of the team. If he seemed to be moving and shaking anything, he was only advocating for the organizations he loved. Victor was transparent. His smile, with those sparkling and sometimes puckish eyes that could light up a room. His face was so readable that just about every emotion in his rainbow, from joy to pride to peace to displeasure to despair, it was instantly understood. And Victor did not have a good poker face. If a thought came into his head, he couldn't edit. He just said it. The best he could do to hold it in was to widen his eyes like a deer caught in the headlights, slap on a wide, toothy smile, and rock his head from side to side. Trust me, I saw it often. Now, as we know, Victor cherished the theater. He stopped acting when he was in his teens, and he didn't direct and he didn't design sets or costumes, although I'm fairly certain he still wanted to do all of the above. But he did take on what is perhaps the most important job in the theater, that of an audience member. However, the Victor model meant being a benefactor, a board member, a one-man promotional machine creating a far-reaching mitosis of support, and especially giving of himself, body, mind, and spirit. The fact is, being a worker bee in many ways gave him more joy than being the queen bee. He just wanted to play in the same sandbox as people whom he revered and respected, and his reward really was just being a part of it. Beyond our professional association, we were an integral part of each other's lives in one way or another for about 32 years. Our relationship was professional, but it was also partnered, and it was even parental, often simultaneously. I stand proudly with all of Victor's many other children to whom Jason referred. We are all a testament of Victor's deep love for us and commitment to us. Victor and I literally knew what the other was thinking. It was bizarre. We strengthened each other during times of enormous joy, and we held each other up during some of the darkest days of our lives. At my mother's funeral, Victor sent dozens of long-stem white roses to the cemetery as a surprise. Now, I confess I was a little concerned. We're Jewish. Our people created the understanding that in lieu of flowers, please send a nice deli platter. But he knew of a long-forgotten practice, and he privately consulted with our rabbi, who concurred that flowers at a Jewish funeral was not only acceptable, but it was a custom that had just eroded over time. Victor personally turned a heart-wrenching moment into a profoundly existential experience. When I met my husband Dennis, I took him home to meet Victor for his approval, which he gave lovingly and enthusiastically. And when Victor met Craig and began to truly breathe again, Victor trusted me to help him take some small steps toward the extraordinary chapter awaiting him with Craig. We were family, and Victor will always and forever be one of the great loves of my life. When we knew that Victor's death was imminent, I called my son Ben to let him know, and he said, "Mom, Victor has always been there for us. I don't know what life looks like without Victor being a part of it." I responded, None of us do. But I believe that a life force, a presence, and an energy as strong as Victor's will always be with us. I seem to hear an old Kenny Rogers song playing in my head over and over. Maybe that's a sign that Victor hears it too. I truly hope so. Because Victor, you decorated our lives.
Hi, I'm Molly Smith, and I'm so thrilled to be here to talk about my love for Victor. I've known Victor since I arrived back in Washington over 20 years ago. Now, we all know how important he's been to the theater community. His community connections, his closeness to the Meads, his closeness to everyone in theater in Washington. He's been so supportive of all of the artists all over the city, large or small. He attended shows at every theater. He was a true believer and the biggest booster of theater here in our area. Victor was one of the first people on the floor at my wedding on the dance floor. He was always in the front row at the theater. He and I connected around our mutual love for the theater and even shared a trip to Cuba over 20 years ago. We traveled with one of our favorite mutual friends, J. Lee Mead. Just saying her name makes me smile. Before her husband, Gil Mead, passed away, Gil, in the middle of having dinner with Victor and J. Lee, asked Victor to look after his wife, J. Lee, when he passed. Now, J. Lee and Gil named the Mead Center for American Theater, and I had a special bond with both of these genius scientists who loved musicals. I knew Victor in a different way then. After Gil died, Victor was by her side constantly and was an amazing friend. He was so caring and nurturing. He would take her out to the theater. He would take her out to restaurants. He was always by her side. As she got ill, I remember he even helped bring her into the fit chandler when she could barely walk anymore. J. Lee's final months were very difficult. Her body was failing, but she was such a fighter. She was in bed, laying still, not talking, and Victor was there with her every day. He sang to her, he sat with her, he provided a level of friendship that few people have with other human beings. I'm very sure Gil felt the love from above. Now, as I watched Victor with J. Lee, it made me realize what a real human being he was, how deep, how committed, how caring. Would that we would all have a friend like Victor was with J. Lee. So much love was packed into one room when Victor and Craig were married. So much love. There was Victor, in love with theater, art, with love, with life, and totally head over heels for Craig. I'm thinking of you right now, Craig. He taught me something very important about real friendship when I saw him and experienced him over those last months of J. Lee's life. And I miss you, Victor. Thank you for helping me realize what it means to be a real friend.
I was resting comfortably deep down in the gutter. Life was serene. I knew where I was at. There's no hope for her, my dearest friends would mutter. I was something dragged in by the cat. Then, just in time, I found you just in time. Before you came, my time, it was running low, low, low. I was lost, the losing dice were tossed, my bridges all were crossed, nowhere to go, no. Now you're here. Now I know just where I'm going, no more doubt or fear. I found my way, for love came just in time. I found you just in time and changed my lonely life that lovely day. Just in time, I found you just in time. Before you came, my time, it was running low. I was lost, the losing dice were tossed, my bridges all were crossed, nowhere to go, no. Now you're here, now I know just where I'm going, no more doubt or fear. I found my way, for love came just in time. I found you just in time, changed my lonely life that lovely day. You changed my lonely life that lovely day. I love you, Victor.
Good evening. It is my great personal joy to have had a small part in the prelude to the love and marriage of Victor and Craig. Some years ago, perhaps as many as 10, I introduced Craig and Victor at the Atlas Performing Arts Center. It was no surprise to see either of them there, given their decades of generosity and devotion to the cultural life of this city. But my introduction was coincidental, and I was slow to realize that this fleeting prelude had morphed into a sweet theme. Then, in February 2012, at a Washington Stage Guild production of Amelia, as the lights came up and I turned to leave, I saw Craig and Victor seated side by side. And so they remained for years after, side by side. If ever there was an illustration of pure Bashert destiny, that Atlas introduction was it. Some of us sharing in this memorial are Victor's family, but all of us are Victor's friends. Friendship was the stuff of Victor's life. Many of my dear friends became such because Victor introduced them to me, saying, "You will like them." He was unfailingly right. Victor didn't just make friends, he nurtured and treasured them. With us, he celebrated our birthdays and bar mitzvahs, and he mourned at our shivas and memorials. He took pride and pleasure in connecting people who, like him, reveled in the glory of friendship. Victor speaks to us through his example of what it means to be a friend. Victor intuitively recognized in friendships the potential of connections to become building blocks for the cultural fabric of this region. His love of friends and theater merged in his belief that the arts are the lifeblood of the city. He recognized, applauded, and supported the revitalization of many parts of our city and our region through the creation and creativity of theaters. He was in the vanguard of audiences at the Atlas and elsewhere to celebrate new venues and demonstrate his support. Every part of town was Victor's part of town, if it had a theater. Finally, a word about Victor's death. Although I miss him mightily, I want to say unreservedly that he had a good death. I believe that Victor would want me to acknowledge that it was Craig who made this possible. Craig streamed Karen Akers' songs to soothe him, encouraged his friends to visit to say goodbye, and made the hard decisions to honor Victor's wishes and values. I believe there is no greater love than this. I close with the words of the British author Samuel Butler, which I'd like to appropriate for Victor. with love, admiration, and gratitude for his loving friendship and generous spirit. I fall asleep in the full and certain hope that my slumber shall not be broken, and that though I be all forgetting, yet shall I not be forgotten, but continue that life in the thoughts and deeds of those I loved.
I'm David Muse, Artistic Director of Studio Theater. I got to know Victor first when he was supportive of me as a freelance director around town. And I got to know him better because he was on the board of Studio when I started my job there. Board service was, of course, one of the many ways he supported the local art scene, serving over the years on a number of boards, including Signature, the Washington Ballet, and Theatre Washington. And he eventually came to be a close friend to me and my wife. Studio feels a special connection to Victor because he served on the board for years, and because he supported the theater, both philanthropically and by connecting us to people, for even more years, and because it was at a studio opening night that Craig asked Victor out, and the rest is history. There are three things that I want to recognize about Victor. One, more than anything, Victor was a fan of the theater and of theater artists, and he reserved much of his abundant enthusiasm for local artists. Two, he is the person more responsible for bringing glamour to the DC theater scene than anyone else in its history, because he had standards, but more importantly, because he felt the theater deserved it. Three, put simply, his heart bound us together. Each one of us, I know, has examples to share of his affection. I'd like to mention just one tonight. Watching Victor accompany and take care of J. Lee Mead during our waning hours was one of the most moving things I've ever seen. We lost one of our giants when he passed. Rest in peace, Victor.
Kiss today goodbye, the sweetness and the sorrow. Wish me luck, the same to you. But I can't regret what he did for love, what he did for love. Look, my eyes are dry. The gift was ours to borrow. It's as if we always knew. And I won't forget what he did for love, what he did for love. Kiss today goodbye and point me toward tomorrow. We did what we had to do. Won't forget, can't regret what he did for love. What he did for love, what he did for love. Love is never what he did